In addition to journeys on scenic waterways, Southeast Alaska also offers wilderness adventures on forested lands. The trail through the thick underbrush might lead to an encounter with wildlife, a scenic vista, or an underground experience.
Well, which passage you want to go into first?
Well, weren't we planning on going into the cathedral room area? I think a lot of people have a hard time relating to why we're crawling around in these mucky holes up here in Alaska. And actually, sometimes I wonder myself why I'm up here. But I, for the most part, enjoy it a lot. One of the neat things is that the caving is in its frontier stage here. There are tremendous potentials for further explorations. There's miles and miles and miles of cave just waiting for those who are willing to look through the woods a little bit and do some hiking around and then be prepared and go in them and explore them.
Yeah, what does it look like from there? There's a lot of brush here. I can't tell how deep it is.
I love to explore the unknown. I like to see beautiful things. I like to do exciting things. I love challenges. Challenges going up and down pits. Challenges getting to caves. Getting to a cave may involve skiing. It may involve mountain climbing, hiking, backpacking. All of these come together into a really enjoyable thing.
Alaska is not known as a cave state, but there are some caves in the Wrangell Mountains, some on Chichagof Island, and a few on other Southeast islands. The highest concentration of known caves in the state is on Forest Service land on northern Prince of Wales Island. Kevin and Carleen Allred, along with other members of the Glacier Grotto chapter of the National Speleological Society, have volunteered to help the Forest Service identify and survey these caves. In 1988, Congress passed the Federal Cave Resources Protection Act. It requires agencies like the Forest Service to preserve and protect significant caves on federal lands.
We hope to identify a high percentage of our caves on the island within the Tongass National Forest. And from there, we can develop a management plan for our cave resources, designed to protect the resource and to meld as easily as possible with the other resources on the forest.
So far, 45 caves have been discovered on Prince of Wales Island. In addition, the deepest and third deepest pits in the United States are on the island. As new caves are discovered, a survey is done so the cave's contents can be considered when a management plan is developed.
This is the pump. Okay.
We go from one station to another, measuring the azimuth, the inclination, and the distance. And we write them in a notebook, and usually one person in the party has a little notebook and they sketch what the passage looks like around these survey points and put in all the details for the finished map.
And so when we do that and then take all that data home and plot it out, we can see just where that cave is going, and we can get an idea of the geologic forces that were at play when that cave was formed. Okay, got it.
We're finding different things in every cave. We're finding small passages, muddy mazes. We find gorgeous big rooms. We find very beautiful speleothems. We find hundreds of feet of passage with nothing spectacular at all. And so the whole bag of what you find in other caves is here.
This is what I was telling you about. This is what Mark calls the Hot Fudge Sunday.
Oh, yeah. That's real nice.
Well, look at these formations down here. I think this is the prettiest part of the whole cascade here. Kind of looks like a drippy ice cream sort of melting.
Oh, yeah. Ooh, wet though. A lot of water. What we normally call formations are dripstone formations, where the water has percolated down through the rock and deposited minerals, and commonly they're known as stalactites and stalagmites. And this cave has some. It's certainly not as beautiful or well decorated as a cave like Carlsbad Caverns, but it is beautiful for Alaska's standards. One of the primary types of speleothems is a soda straw, which looks like a soda straw. It's the same size, about 1/4 of an inch thick, and it's hollow on the inside. And a droplet of water will go down the inside of the soda straw and slowly drip down the inside until it gets to the end, and then it deposits a little thin ring of minerals around the edge of this soda straw, and so it progressively grows longer. Now, another type of formation is the stalactite, which is growing from the ceiling, and that usually starts as a soda straw, and then the soda straw becomes plugged and it makes a thicker formation called a stalactite. Where a stalactite drips onto the floor, there is often a stalagmite, and that grows up from the floor, and we have some of those that are up to 3 feet tall here.
Cave formations grow at a very slow rate, perhaps only 1/4 of an inch every 5 years or more. Usually, formations that get broken will never form again. At times, simply touching a formation can cause a permanent alteration. For these reasons, members of the survey team do not enter passages where formations can be damaged, but not everyone who visits a cave shows the same respect.
But first, look at this. This is an example of natural breakage. This thing has been, at one time probably rocks came down through the passage here and knocked it off. And it's had time to form flowstone over it. But these up here, most of them are in real good shape, but it looks like someone's come through here and broke some of them off. Well, now that formation right there was probably, 1 foot or so long, but somebody's broken that one off. And it'll probably never grow back again, ever, who knows. But it could have taken thousands of years for that thing to form.
It's so sad because people sometimes see this glistening object in the cave and they want to have it for their house, and they take it home. And of course, the thing that made it beautiful in the cave was that it had the water coming down, and it was a process of forming. It's a chemical reaction taking place. And once you get that out away from it in a hot, dry place, it just dries up and looks like an ordinary rock. So they take it home because it's pretty, and then they throw it out immediately after it dries out, which is very sad, because then it's no longer in the cave.
The Forest Service goal is to keep the caves on Prince of Wales Island wild and as undisturbed as possible. The rugged terrain around most of the caves will limit public access to those in good physical shape. Venturing into any cave requires proper gear and planning. For safety, a good light source and 2 backup lights should be carried by each person entering a cave. And just like boating or flying, someone staying behind should be informed of the trip. The advice of the Glacier Grotto is a good golden rule to follow when visiting a cave.
One of our mottos is leave nothing but footprints, take nothing but pictures, and kill nothing but time. And that way we tend to preserve these caves for later generations to enjoy as well.
walk in the past through weathered old doors, relying on rusty old hinges, to a smoky saloon where a young logger swoons for a barmaid in satin and fringes. Then over the din and clinking of glass, a fisherman signals the waiter to set up a round. We're toasting the town, and we'll drink to each other later. And young lovers romance while the northern lights dance and the sky never touches down. She lives on the land and belongs to the sea, this foggy old Ketchikan town. Then out in the streets, the rivers of rain are cascading down the gutters, and the clarion call of an October squall is the slamming of gates and shutters. And at the Union Hotel, with its sourdough smell, the occupants change like the weather. And when the sun shines down, she lights up the town, makes a stranger wanna stay forever. And young lovers romance while the northern lights dance and the sky never touches down. She lives on the land and belongs to the sea, this foggy old Ketchikan town. North up the coast, asleep in the pines, the dreams of the Tlingit lie fallow, and the totems remind us of the days far behind us, while the fog settles thick and sallow. Then back in the town, the night closes in, and the trawlers return from fishing, and the moon's icy stare brings a chill to the air while the lights of the harbor glisten. And young lovers romance while the northern lights dance and the sky never touches down. She lives on the land and belongs to the sea, this foggy old Ketchikan town.
This was the main dock of the Treadwell facility. Behind me, the concrete structure you see was at the end of that dock, and that contained a saltwater pump that they could use in times of emergency to pump more water into their system. Out on the dock behind me was the warehouse facility, and about where I'm standing was once a large machine shop. Here we see the interior of the machine shop. The Treadwell mine was totally dependent on an adequate supply of water to keep its machinery in operation. There were occasional months in the summers when it was dry that there was insufficient water to do that, and there was always times in the winter during the freeze-up where there was insufficient water. And during those periods, they were forced to shut down part or all the machinery in certain mills. To eliminate that problem, in 1899, the building behind me was constructed. This was a steam plant. It was equipped with many coal-fired boilers to produce steam. And they converted their equipment to run on steam in addition to water. There was quite a system of asbestos-covered pipes going throughout the Treadwell complex to transport the steam to the various mills, and the steam was also used for heating in all of their buildings. Then in 1914, this building was converted to produce electricity. I'm standing in an area that once provided the miners with some entertainment and exercise, if you think they needed it. This was a tennis court. This pipe held the net that went across the court this way. The court was enclosed with chicken wire, supported by these pipes that went around the circumference of the court here. The court is sort of sandwiched in between the steam plant, which is here. There's a large oil tank over here. The rail line ran just behind the court here, and the superintendent's house was on the other side of the rail line. As a community, Treadwell was unique in a number of different ways. There were no churches, no bars, and no fraternal organizations here. Of course, if the miners wanted to partake in those activities, all they had to do was go into Douglas, which was just outside of the mine property. Also, there were no roads here. Of course, there was quite an extensive system of the narrow gauge railroad for the mining activities that carried the ore and mining equipment. For people, there were planked boardwalks and stairways led just about everywhere. And of course, there was no government here, which meant there were no taxes. This was a company town. All the buildings here were painted red with green trim. The company provided police protection and schooling for the kids. I'm standing about where the first schoolhouse was located. It was a one-room affair with a second story where the teacher lived. There were 24 students here in the first year of school in 1903. By 1910, that had grown to 56 students. That required two sessions of school per day. The younger children went in the morning, the older kids in the afternoon. From 7th grade and above, they went to school in Douglas. By 1916, school population was too high for the one-room school, and a new school, two-room affair was built on the beach below us. I'm standing on what was once a rail line. Came this way and went down this ridge off to the main dock. Next to the rail behind me here, on my right, was the superintendent's house. The superintendent's house was the largest house in Alaska. On the trail to my left was another rail line, and above us here was the elevated rail line that brought the ore from the Treadwell mine to the 300 mill. The mines here operated 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 363 days a year. They closed down only for the 4th of July and Christmas. Behind me was the town plaza. This was the place to be on the 4th of July. This is where the band played. There were games of chance and skill and cash prizes, large cash prizes. This was a fun place to be. The plaza here was about the only level ground in all of Treadwell. There were 2 flagpoles here, one with a flag of the United States and one with a flag with the Treadwell logo. The Treadwell logo was a capital T inside a diamond shape. Over here on my right was the assistant superintendent's house. And behind that was the butcher shop. Next to that was the store. And behind the store is the what they call the new office building, which is there today. On the ridge behind me was the assay office. Behind me, on the hill to my left, was an apartment house. And down here on the level ground to my left was a building called the stables. Now this pipe is called a fire monitor. It's like a fire hydrant with a built-in hose on it. It had a nozzle that could be directed in case of fire in the area. These things were scattered throughout the Treadwell facility. You note the valve here is still in place, and it's in a depression. These depressions were filled with horse manure for insulation to keep the pipes from freezing during the wintertime. I'm standing about where the main entrance to the store was once located. This was a well-stocked facility. They had just about anything that you could want. They had food, including canned goods, fresh produce and fruits. They sold hardware items, furniture, clothing for men, women, and children, boots and shoes. Whatever they didn't have, they would order for you. The company kept the prices low for their employees. At first, the office for the mine complex occupied this front corner of the store, both the ground level and the second floor. Behind me, you see the concrete vaults. These were enclosed within the store structure. The store was made of wood and has long since burnt down. In 1914, they decided they needed more office space, so they started the construction of the concrete office structure behind me. Here we are inside what was called the new office building at Treadwell. It's one of the few concrete structures they built here. One of the really interesting facts about this place is when they moved in here in 1915, they hired their first woman employee here at Treadwell to work inside this building. This photo shows the exterior of the new office building. Here we see what the office employees wore to work. I'm standing where the assay house once stood. This was a very modern facility, obviously quite capable of determining the values of ore samples. The Treadwell company offered free service to miners anywhere from Alaska could bring their ore here for to have it assayed for free. Of course, their feeling was if somebody ever made that big strike, they need a big company to help them develop their claim, and the Treadwell company would be there available for that. The only thing left of the assay house is the two concrete piers, this one and one standing over here. These were a very important part of the structure. They provided the base for the very accurate set of scales that they had upstairs in weighing the samples and determining values of the ore. The rows of concrete piers that you see here supported a series of bunkhouses. The single room was 8 foot by 10 foot. Double room was 8 by 12. The first two were built in 1908. Second pair was built in 1910. There were 4 buildings in a row, 3 of which were 3-story structures. The 3-story structures held 82 men in a building. One of these structures was probably for the foreman and more special people. It had 40 rooms with separate outside entrances for each room. Of course, these buildings were equipped with hot and cold Rhine water, steam heat. When you walk down Sandy Beach here, you can't help but notice all the broken white china. This came from the building that was once located behind me here. It was the boarding house. It contained the dining room and kitchen facilities to feed the miners. It had a dining room that was capable of seating 500 men at a time. On the second floor were sleeping rooms. When the boarding house was first constructed, it was built on pilings out over the water. And then as mining progressed, they filled in underneath of it with tailings from the mine, and then eventually they filled in the beach far beyond it. This early photograph of a group of miners waiting for dinner in front of the boarding house clearly shows it on pilings. In this 1915 photograph, the boarding house is on the left. The office building is in the center, and the store is on the right. You can see that the tailings have filled in beyond the boarding house. The pilings here supported what was called the Treadwell Club. This building measured 56 feet by 260 feet. Cost $15,000 when it was built in 1904. And this was a recreational facility for the miners. Inside the club here were bowling alleys, there were pool tables, billiard tables, there was a Turkish bath, there was a dark room for photographers. There was also a reading room here with newspapers and magazines from throughout the world. And there was a room where the company provided the miners with envelopes and writing paper so that they could communicate with their friends and relatives back home. There was a 15,000 volume library here and a 500-seat theater. There was a barber shop. It was in the theater where the kids on Saturday got to watch the silent movies, and then the adults got to watch the same movie Saturday night. The theater was also the site of many theatrical and musical performances. It was a great source of entertainment. On this side of the club was another building called the Natatorium. Basketball was a popular sport here even then, and inside the Natatorium was a full-size gymnasium. There was also a 30 by 70 foot heated pool, steam heated pool of course. They had separate hours for the women to use the pool and the men and the children. But both of the facilities, the club and the natatorium, were open 24 hours a day. Other sports were popular here also. This is the 1913 football team. In 1910, the average wage for a miner here was $100 a month. They had a $1 a month payroll deduction so they could use the club facilities, and $1.50 a month for medical care. They paid $2 a month for their room and $25 a month for their meals at the boarding house. The married couples who had the small houses here paid $12.50 a month. Life here was pretty good. The tailings here on Sandy Beach are slowly being eroded away. The pilings you see behind me were constructed as a retaining wall to keep the tailings from flowing into Gastineau Channel. They didn't want to fill in around their dock and prevent ships from tying up here. The depth of the tailings where I'm standing was once well over the top of my head. There was once a ball field out here on the tailing pile. Where I'm walking used to be a rail line through a residential area here called Treadwell Heights on a little ledge up above the bunkhouses. There were 10 houses on this side of the rail line and 5 up above. There were a number of little residential areas scattered throughout the Treadwell complex. It was a very diverse group of men that worked here in the Treadwell mine complex, manning shovels like this and doing other tasks. Mostly there were immigrants. There were Germans, Scandinavians, Irish, Austrians, Slavs, Russians, Finns, Japanese, Scotch, French, and many other nationalities. There were also some Alaska Natives that worked here. The workforce increased up until it peaked out at about 1910 with about 1,900 employees here.
as the sun slips slowly away. Just lay your worries down, come with me, let's live for today. You gotta relax, lay back, enjoy yourself. You're gonna see how life can be. Why don't you just say goodbye? Why don't you just say goodbye? Why don't you just say goodbye and come with me? Come with me. Come with me.
Here like a pounce upon a pickle. Look at what the light did now. There like a bounce upon a pickle. Look at what the light did now. Land and water and blood or beast. Oh, look at what the light did now. Shiny little band or golden fleece. Oh, look at what the light did now. 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 Ooh, 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 ooh. In my will I went till it's wasted. Look at what the light did now. Taste the taste I tasted, tasted. Look at what the light did now. Body like a ghost that barely beaming. Look at what the light did now. Got it like a ghost that girly gleaming. Look at what the light did now. 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 Ooh, 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 like a dead tree that's dry and leaving. Look at what the light did now. Praying on me with grief and grieving. Look at what the light did now. I would finally fall to pieces. Look at what the light did now. We'll meet soon as nephews, nieces. Look at what the light did now. 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 Ooh, 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 ooh.
Hashukahas Dujenei Satin Yuchatangi Yanshutan Itundatani Plek Na Uhan Yehayati Hashukahas Ha'id Idashi Chagu Yach Uhan Yeyati Hashaganyahas Ha'inch Inesti Yadu Uhan Wehakustiyi Yadu Uhan Wehakustiyi Hashaganyahas Ha'inch Inesti Chagu Yach Uhan Yeyati Hashukahas Ha'id Idashi Plek Na Uhan Yehayati Yanshutan Itundatani Satin Yuchatangi Hathith Guhas Dujenei